Good evening. It's almost 6 o'clock, almost dark, but it doesn't look like it, does it? Uh, about 3 o'clock, a young woman pulls up and she comes bringing a bag full of food. She's has a regular job at the school district here, but I assume they probably went on Christmas break today, and so she went straight to door dashing or whatever. And she actually drives an imported vehicle. It's Japanese made, but it was made for a country in which they drive on the left side of the road. Its steering wheel's on the right. It's a cool car. I like it. But we got into a conversation and we talked about many subjects. And you could tell that she wasn't completely focused on it. I kind of drew her out on it a little bit, but oh my God, she already knows it's the food. She eats a pretty restricted diet, and one of them is rice, white rice, same as me. She's not an expert in the food. She's just avoiding stuff that she knows is causing her GI problems. This is only a little bit of what we talked about. We didn't really focus on this for at least 2.5 hours. We didn't. One of the major things I talked about is about identity and that sort of stuff, and kids' behaviors, and that they're picking up from their parents and stuff like that. But oh my God, and some doctor is associated with Scott and White, actually at this very clinic, has got her on 18 medications, two of which her own pharmacist, which is my pharmacist, had told her you can't mix those two together. And then she went back to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh no, that's okay, you can't." My lifelong friend Jimmy Bedecker, before he died at about age 80, was on 18 medications. Any doctor that can't cure pretty much all your ills with 3 medications, that includes one for infection, they're not a very good doctor. They're just throwing drugs at you and hoping to make you toxic enough to trigger the human inflammatory response. But I can tell that she's already suffering from frankenfood. And her GI problems are frankenfood. I just didn't drive it home. She's already eliminating foods that cause her irritation and cause the symptoms. We didn't get into any graphic detail because there was no need to. We talked about all sorts of things. I don't think I could spend 2.5 hours on. But I told her she needed to dump that doctor. I've never, even when I was in the hospital last year, 22 and a half months ago, more than 22 and a half months ago, I was briefly on like 4 medications. And after just a couple, 3 days, when I was sure that there wasn't going to be another grand mal seizure, I halted the anti-seizure medication and I immediately got it down to 3, one of which was Xanax. Actually, generic alprazolam, which wasn't really working right the shit. It was. Anytime a doctor, number one, here's my part of my, except maybe in HIV research, we've never really studied drug combinations of 3 or more ever. And when you start mixing, when a doctor of pharmacology tells you shouldn't mix those 2 drugs, they're not fucking around. They know drugs. Doctors just know to throw them at you. And I strongly advise her she needs to shuck that doctor. My experience with Scott and White doctors, especially reading after the notes following my visit with the doctor, how many times the Scott and White doctors have lied and shit and twisted, and they still think that I'm on. Even that neurologist started. See, between the various hospitals I've been in the hospital stuff, they still have all those drugs. I actually still think, I said, it may have been prescribed for me, doctor. That doesn't mean I ever had the prescription filled. That's what I told Dr. Mary Kwan Young. Was asked me if I was taking this or this, that. Nope, nope, nope. Uh, I said, just because it's in my record doesn't mean I ever had it filled. You know, when I first, got out of St. David's and got out of West Oaks Realit, I had like 10 standing prescriptions. What did I fill? Xanax. That's the only one I needed. The rest were irrelevant. The failed skin graft wasn't infected. I was using Dakins on it every day. Unlike that fucking Austin, Travis County EMS guy that insisted that the edema weep on my foot was infected. I'm going, okay, where's the red ring? Where's the pus? It's not infected, dude. Don't fucking argue with me. I'm the one that busted it open. It looked like a blister. You would have called it a blister the first time you saw it. When it wasn't a blister, it wasn't a burn. It was edema separating the skin from the flesh. It was a lot of these people, especially MDs, EMS, sometimes they think that they know it all. Trust me, they don't. If any doctor goes more than 3 drugs, something's wrong with the doctor. There's very few cases that I would ever go to a 4th medicine. That would be rare. You'd have to have a real strong psychiatric component to your other problems, other physical problems, before I would venture into a 4th medication. That's just fucking ridiculous because we don't have any science to support those kind of drug combinations, whether they're safe or not. And the pharmacist has already warned her, a doctor of pharmacology has already warned her not to combine those 2 drugs. And then right there in that building, what I call the hypochondriac clinic, she's not a hypochondriac. She's having real Frankenfood, symptoms. She has the weight gain. She's an attractive young woman, but she's having the weight gain. She's showing the classic kind of Frankenfood symptoms. And the GI, she's reacting to it at an early age. Actually, I was many years older than her. I was really in my mid-30s before I really started getting, really serious problems. She's only like 25 or 27. I remember she told me her age once. My sinuses are starting to clear up after. Boy, we were really getting gassed with auto emissions there I think you can still see me just because that light right there is mostly shining on me. It ought to be getting a little dark. Maybe I'll get in a little closer here. There you go. But yeah, that's my basic thing is, I even regret I told Jimmy Bedecker, good luck trying to spell that correctly, about, because he was worried about clotting and shit, and that actually was his 18th. I told him about Plavix, but, even at the time, it's because they said it was, but in reality, Plavix only had a statistically irrelevant outcome. It only decreased mortality in their big study by 2%. 2% falls within the range of statistically irrelevant. It's not worth the toxicity of taking it. But Jimmy Bedecker was a wealthy man who was an insurance agent and had full and complete coverage on everything. He was a State Farm agent for like 45 years or something. He had claims adjuster, agent. He eventually sold the agency. I think he still kept the percentage to one of his in-laws or something. And funny how he kept having pneumonia towards the end. Now, was it an actual germ or was it chemical pneumonia? Because I've never actually contracted a pneumococcal strain. I've only ever had chemical pneumonia in my entire life, 70 years. Never had any kind of pneumonia, influenza, even the common cold. Never had it. I'm gonna let you go now because the light's probably about to erase my face, the lack of lighting. And I'm afraid if I turn on the torch there, let's see if I can do it. If I suddenly disappear, that means turning on the torch. There you go. There you go. Yep. And I've got my Medicare annual wellness check is January 9th. They actually had it already on my schedule. They had it for January 3rd, and yet they still wanted me to and they're going to send me to just another doctor inside the same clinic, not my primary care. I don't have a problem with that because this guy knows I don't yak much. And I'm not there to complain about anything because I don't want him attempting to try to prescribe me something I don't even know if I'm going to go. That's only about barely, 20 days away. Not even. It all depends on the weather. The weather's supposed to be good around January 9th. The weather's supposed to hold for quite a while here, which has been a real blessing and a saving in my. Anyway. Boy, I was hungry this afternoon. After I cooked a pot of rice and beans, it was really tasty because I've learned that beans are no good unless you put sugar in with the salt too. It's beans that ain't sweet just that isn't my palate. They've got to be sweet. The same as the Yankees, and there's, we Texans used to be Yankees. Most of the original Texas families had come down from, Maine, Boston, New York City. Remember New York City, 300 years ago wasn't shit there. It wasn't. Maine 400 years ago, there wasn't diddly squat there. Actually, it's over 400 years ago. It's almost 420. 18 medications. And her pharmacist has warned her it's all nothing else. She got after some assurance from an old man that under no circumstances should you be taking 18 freaking different medications. They're just But we spent a lot of time talking to this because she was wondering why kids and people in general act the way they do now. And I pointed out to her, it's that identity thing, that search for a unique identity. And instead of working hard to produce that identity, they just consume it. You've heard me talk about this so many times, and I don't want to repeat myself because that's what I just spent the better part 2 hours out of 2.5 hours of talking to her, talking about how people want to change their gender identity and change their hair, and it's all sort of tattoos and piercings. No offense, John Alonzo on Long Island. People want your business. They want your skills. Give it to them. But that's the key thing is when you see John Alonzo has acquired the skill of piercing. Other people are just getting pierced. They're consuming it. He's just satisfying a market need. America was built upon consumerism. And I was explaining to her all the way back to the Frankfurt School. Yeah, the Marx Engels Institute of Frankfurt, Germany, that was expelled, came to this. Spent a lot of time explaining a lot of shit to her. That's what I do. That's what I do in old age is teach. I really can't do shit hardly anymore. Other than that, today I got my sleeping bag and my mummy, the one given to me, and actually I can see there's some white mold around the foot there. It's in that fabric. Yeah, when it got moist, it came out. It wasn't there after the washing and stuff. So I don't know how long I'm with it, but I got that all dried in the blanket, just crisply dried and bagged up again. And all I need tonight is my $30 oversized sleeping bag. Should be a nice night. I don't know what they're predicting. I think they're only predicting a low of around 42 or something tonight. That ain't shit. Not that much wind. Remember last time this year, the wind was still blasting the wind chill was just unbearable. I hope we're getting a long break from it. It's just been 18 medications. I remember when I got to look at Jimmy Bedeker's medication list, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to destroy his relationship with his doctor and call his doctor what he is, which is a murderer. While I'm on that, the first news deal is it was turning my phone face, back on. It's after lapse or something like that. I got to pin back in, because that's the way I got security on the phone. And first pops up. Well, I'd been doing search, so I'd return to that page because I wanted to show her them last of the Kruger brothers. I've been talking about the fact that I earned my identity, that I am in every university library in this country, and I've earned my identity. I produced it. I didn't consume it. And just trying to let her know that's the difference. Because people do have that craving for a unique identity, like within their nation and within their tribe, within their family. God allows you them three right off the bat: nation, tribe, family. But then his laws clearly show that you're not supposed to consume it after that. You're supposed to earn it. You're supposed to produce that unique identity and not consume it. That's why it's no fucking with the hair, no piercings, no tattooings. I know I just whistled a little bit on that sibilant. My tongue is lazy and tired after talking for 2.5 hours. It's a pretty nice evening, and I need to eat one more good-sized meal before going to bed. This is one of those nights. I slept fairly well last night, but not well rested. If you remember, I slept this morning again. So I'm in no hurry to hit the fart sack. It's way too early. I'm just really grateful. I was talking to her, and a guy I can't remember, he stopped and it was he kept like kissing her hand and stuff. He's apparently a fan of mine or something. I've got to use the word fan. I asked him if he's one of my subscribers. He said no, and he remembers that I think he and his wife said he brought me food and cash one time. Honestly, I didn't remember the guy. I've met thousands of people right here just sitting on my ass. And he had about a month's worth of growth of beard. That's and at that age, I just didn't remember. I couldn't remember her name. Some people where I've had long conversations with them, I remember their name instantly and stuff. Names are hard. I usually never forget a face, and I just didn't remember him. He was Yep. It's amazing that so many of you, she's At least she's on to it. But I think she now knows what her problem is the frankenfood. And I was pointing out on the news that came up on the search page for when I was correcting because it went back to Google search, which also will have the Google News thing operating, even though I've got the news app shut off. I'm sorry, I got an eye booger. Uh, and the first one was uh, uh, United Healthcare's denial claims examined or something. And when I went to read the article, no, you had to accept cookies and all this shit. Nope, just skip it. I already know that they denied 33% minimum of all claims. And the next story down under some science journal, probably not in the National Library of Medicine, said that there were correlations, said there were links being found between your current vegetable oils, seed oils, or cooking oils. They use the term cooking oils, and cancer. Gee, I wonder why that is. Because they're so fucking toxic. You know, that kind of runs in line with Harvard's published work this past year, where they said the American food supply is pathogenic and carcinogenic. And those stinking seed oils that my cyber stalker think there's nothing wrong with palm oil. I got years, one stupid motherfucker. I'm having trouble remembering. I remember it was in Southern California on the beach. It might have been Santa Barbara. It was a long time ago. A lifetime ago. I remember cutting open a palm. And by the way, that particular type of palm tree, I'm allergic to the pollen. Yep. And I remember taking out my knife. It was pretty sharp. And for the first time, out of curiosity, I went to cutting a palm kernel open, and I couldn't believe that camels actually eat those things with no problem. Oh my. And it took me quite a while to cut that palm kernel in half. That they get, they're not like that. They're oblong. And to cut it in half and get a good look at the seed inside without slipping and cutting my fucking thumb off. I was going at it slowly. I kept going around and around and trying to keep pressure. It was hard as rock. It was as hard as, high density polyethylene. You ever notice how hard it is? Like when they got on the mold, like on the bottom of some of them water jugs and milk jugs, and you get a piece of that shit. Or if you find that little piece that's in the handle that didn't pop out during, you ever play with it? It's the exact same appearance and toughness and hardness. And when I heard they were fucking actually making oil out of that shit, I'm going like, how the fuck was that? What do you got to go through? I've never looked up the process because I don't need to. I know there's something that starts off that fucking, only a fucking camel would get something. And a camel don't they chew their cud, or I can't remember their digestive, because there's a big difference. One's more vinegary and the other one's more towards hydrochloric. Like we're hydrochloric, and a cow is more symbiotic. They use probiotics. That's what we do, is we capture germs from cow crap and stuff and put them in our own guts to handle insoluble fiber. And they also, because they reproduce so well and so fast, they help to crowd out bad germs. Exactly what I told Cass Comerford when he asked me about the probiotics, was that one reason to be taking them is because they help to outcompete the bad germs. Like it actually can be a good defense against E. coli. Now, there'll be some doctor who'll say, no, you're wrong. Approve it, motherfucker. You can't. That's why I'm thinking about going to, but the only thing I really need to get at Walmart is more, all I want is more. I even told her, I said, I'm thinking about right at sunset, right? I told her I'm thinking about going up there just to get some more kefir. I drink a half gallon of kefir tonight because I ate black beans with rice. I was farting as but I want to make sure, but I haven't had a blowout. I haven't had a dumping of the probiotics, so I should have a good healthy culture in my gut. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this shit because this is the matter between hygiene and life and death. Because when you're hypermotile and you can't eat, your body has gotten to where it turns everything that you eat within 20 minutes into fat. That's fucked up. That's what Frankenfood does. I know, because I told you I was even using tracers to time the passage. It's the hypermotility. 20 minutes after I'd eaten it, it had already extracted all the calories that it could out of the food, and it was turning it strictly into fat, almost exclusively into fat. Then towards the end, that's when it started also not really dealing with not turning the sugars into fat, and that's when I developed diabetes. And all I had to do was go non-GMO for 7 fucking days, and my type 2 diabetes disappeared. It never was really bad. Actually, the worst parts, I'll finish with this. Most people don't know that, especially in the early stages of type 2 diabetes, one of the problems that you have is not that you can handle high blood sugar like forever. It's in real diabetes, you also go hypoglycemic, and your sugar drops. And once it starts getting down to around 70, you can start getting some fucking wicked ass headaches. And most adults cannot survive going below 50. Although I do know of one case of an infant that survived for a long period with a blood glucose level of only 30. That child had to be in screaming headache pain, because I've been there. Your hands get to shaking so fucking bad that you're afraid to drive, and your head's hurting so fucking bad when you start getting down to about around the 70 range in blood glucose. At least me, that was my reaction, and that's standard with the literature. Your hands get shaky and shit, and your head hurts so much you can't fucking think. And it's really hard to, unless you are actually are intaking orally, like pure glucose, which is hard to find. That's why, like I said, I'm doing sucrose, pure cane sugar, organic, not genetically engineered, the right way. Is I'm hydrolyzing sucrose into glucose the correct way in my gut, and not letting some soda pop turn high fructose corn syrup into glucose and the fructose and whatever. Sorry, the vehicle kind of distracted me there. It's yeah, you tend to get obsessed with this shit when you actually want to stay alive. And I'm going to end this with these final words at 30 minutes. If you want to stay alive, one of the best things you can do is keep a healthy distance between you and doctors, and never be a compliant patient. That's why doctors don't like me. I won't take every drug that they throw at me because I fucking know better. Never be a totally compliant patient with a doctor. Never take what he says, like that doctor telling this woman it was okay to mix them two drugs when a doctor of pharmacology said you can't do that. Never be a compliant patient. Always research with that doctor the drugs and whatever the doctors. Always. Never fucking depend upon what an MD says, because they are some of the most egomaniacal, vengeful, and hateful motherfuckers I've ever run across. They don't care about you. There's an endless line of patients just dying to see them. They don't give a fuck about you. They have to maintain a complete emotional detachment from their patients so they don't develop what I have, which is PTSD. A doctor that had true sympathy for his patients isn't going to last long. If he actually gets involved with emotionally with his patients, nope, you're just a fucking case number and you're just a file folder, and now you're just zeros and ones to that doctor. He doesn't, or she doesn't, really give a fuck about whether you live or die. All they care about is their power and their prestige, their ability to violate the speed limit and drive drunk anytime they want. And they know they can get away with it just by telling the cop, I'm Dr. Chenault, I got a patient in the hospital. And the doctor will go, the cop will go, you need an escort? No, I got it. You can radio ahead. All doctors know they can get away with that shit. When was the last time you saw a doctor go down on a DUI or go down for speeding? Ask yourself that. When was the last time you ever saw an MD get a speeding ticket or get a DUI? And my best friend does DUIs for rich people and prominent people. Never had an MD yet because the cops won't fucking cite him. Because the cop wants to need. Yeah, we'll take care of you because you got to take care of us when we get shot. There's the thing between cops and doctors, and there's corruption in both. And if you try to tell me that both are just squeaky clean, you're fucking insane. I want to exchange a word with you. There's no such thing as an uncorrupted military, no such thing as uncorrupted cops, no such thing as uncorrupted medical profession. It doesn't happen. I'll see y'all later.